everyone. Welcome to this edition of Ground Pass. Hello, Nick. How are you?
Anastasia, I'm doing all right. Hopefully, this is this could be a fun session, I think, for us.
Yeah.
As we're wrapping everything up.
Yes, we are. So, if you are listening, we're recording this November 24th. Jannik Sinner is on court. Italy is one match away from winning the Davis Cup back-to-back. We will talk about all of that. We will also talk about Rafa retiring, Billie Jean King Cup winner, and some other things along the way, including some breaking news that I am sure everyone heard of. The news was everywhere yesterday. It involves one Sir Andy Murray, and we will talk about that later. So stay with us. But before I begin, Nick, what have you been up to? Because I saw you posted on Threads about your D&D group.
Yeah, that's my hobby that I have when I'm not watching tennis. In fact, it's probably what I'm doing instead of watching tennis a lot of the time. If I'm not watching tennis, I'm playing D&D. It's because I'm playing D&D. So yeah, I have a group of friends who I play once a month with. We have a good time. I'm the games master for it. Yeah, we have a good time. We have a laugh, and generally, I like to try and find different ways of stressing them out.
For anyone who doesn't know D&D, Dungeons and Dragons, I've never really gotten into it, but when you posted, I was like, oh, could you play with? So I guess you can play with other people online. Like, it doesn't have to be in person.
Yeah, it's not uncommon. In fact, that's how people played over COVID. And you can do that. There's like websites that you can sort of run maps on and roll dice and use for like random dice generators. A bit like, have you played Baldur's Gate 3?
I'm not a big gamer,
Okay,
even though I'll let you know what I'm recently getting into, but I'm not a big online gamer. I love card games. In fact, I collect deck of cards, but yeah.
Wait, what kind of card games are we talking?
Oh my God, all sorts of things. Like, name a card game, I love it. Gin, rummy.
Okay, yeah.
Name a card game, I
Proper
love
card
it.
Games.
I love playing. Yeah, no. I love going to sort of like garage sales and seeing if they have sort of vintagey looking deck of cards. I love collecting cards. I have a ton of deck of cards.
Yeah, proper like nice playing card sets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of them I don't play with because they're so delicate and they're so like nice. So, but yeah, that's like a little hobby that I do have.
Is that what you've been up to?
No. Okay. So we all know your favorite tennis player, Iga, is a Lego sponsor. And I was just randomly looking into Lego. And as a kid, I loved Lego. I had tons of Lego sets. But I had no idea there's, air quotes, adult Lego, because I saw this set that is the Starry Night painting, but in Lego, and you can get it and build it and like display it. And I am so close to getting that because that seems like fun. I was looking for something to do in the off season, like a puzzle to put together or something like that. But I think I might get that Lego set.
Yeah, well, Lego sets are basically big 3D puzzles if you stick to the instructions.
True. Yeah, you are right there.
I've got a Lego set I need to build. I got given it as a gift for being a groomsman at one of my friends' wedding. He got everyone in his groom's party Lego.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Well, we might be building Lego together in this off season, but let's get into the tennis. Oh, before we get into the tennis, this is partly tennis. I had a question at the end of last week's episode, and I think it was the next day or that same day that the podcast went live, Tracy from Blue Sky turned in her answer. So at the Challenger event, I got to talk to a really cool tennis player, Grand Slam winner, Olympic silver medalist winner. And I had asked our audience to guess, and she guessed Rajiv Ram, and she was right. So thank you, Tracy, for listening and guessing that. So, Nick, Billie Jean King Cup, Italy. Team Italy came through in the end and won the Billie Jean King Cup. What were your... they were playing against Team Slovakia, who was led by Rebecca Skrampova, who anyone listening to this podcast knows that we are on the Rebecca Skrampova train. We've been for a long time. And I expected it to be a little bit more of a fight, a battle, but they came through in their first two singles matches.
Yeah, they really did. I was impressed by that. I mean, I wasn't expecting Italy to. I wasn't expecting Italy to lose. To be honest, I thought it would be a tough fight for Slovakia, and the main reason for that being obviously Jasmine Paolini, top 10 player. She is one of the players of the season, and probably one of the best players of the Billie Jean Cup in single and doubles with Sara Irani. And I felt like Shankova was kind of the strongest player on the Slovakia team, but she'd probably struggle against Paolini, or at least she made a fight, but like she wasn't going to be the favourite, and they definitely lose the doubles. The singles with Bronzetti and Hrunchikova, that could have gone either way, but I think as soon as Bronzetti won it, I was like, that's it, Italy have got this.
Yeah.
And hands down, they end up being the strongest team. And I think in retrospect, not a surprise, but what was great about Italy was that everyone there kind of stepped up and they got it done. Stepped up and got it done, and like nobody really played badly in that team. Like they all took the situation very seriously, and that's why they're the champions in the end.
Yeah, it's kind of brings me to the next topic where so tennis is mostly known as a singles event. Like you're on your own on the tennis court, you're by yourself, and these team events, Billie Jean King Cup, Davis Cup, United Cup, which we'll talk about in January, they are these sort of team events where a country comes together with their best players and tries to put their best foot forward. And I think there is obviously, depending on the teams, like they have their star players, Poland has Iga, and, Spain has Paula Badosa, the United States, even though they didn't come, would have Coco Gauff or Jessica Pegula. So teams that have those sort of top 10 players, I think, tend to get the kind of they're the favorites to win these sort of events. But I think what I realized a lot from watching these team events, which I've totally fallen in love with, is it takes a team. Like you could have the number one player in the world, but one person can't really always carry a team to the finish line. So it's been very interesting watching all these teams like have it be the sum of their parts that makes them the winners in these events. So it's been really cool to watch. I think Rebecca Skrampova was definitely devastated. Like just watching her teammates console her on the bench was really, really tough. I think I was listening to a press conference before the final tie, and she was definitely confident. I think a question was brought to her saying that, Jasmine Paolini has really improved and is leading Team Italy. And she was very strong in her belief of her game and her team. So it was sad that they lost in the singles and it didn't even go to deciding doubles. But yeah, Team Italy is on a roll. It's kind of incredible to watch. I think what Italy is doing in tennis right now is kind of like we were just saying in the beginning, like the Davis Cup is happening right now, the male side of this team event, and Italy is in the finals there. They've already won their first singles match, and Jannik Sinner is on court right now trying to win their second. So, I mean, what have you thought of Italy's tennis in general this year? Because it's easy to sort of say, oh, it's come out of nowhere, but it seems like it's been a slow and steady build.
Italy doesn't not have a tennis history. I mean, the Italian Open's been a thing since 1930. There have been Italian players competing for Grand Slams for decades. We've got historic Grand Slam champions In the men's, going back to Adria Panatta, Nicola Picciandrelli back in the 50s and 60s. I'm sure there's a women's player whose name is escaping me right now, but they've got Grand Slam champions, but it's been a slow kind of building process for them. And now they've got this generation of male and female players coming through, maybe more on the men's side, that make them basically, if you're playing an Italian in the top 100 right now, they're a dangerous player. And I think it kind of shows that now Italy is probably now joining some of the great historic tennis nations that have existed in tennis history. So with the obvious ones being the US and Australia, but also Britain, from over 100 years ago, the French dominating in the 20s, Spanish showing up in recent years and just being a really solid tennis force. I guess you could say the Swedes, but it's only been on the men's side. There's a few nations that got some solid base, but haven't necessarily controlled tennis. They may have won the Jean King Cup and Davis Cup in the same year, but I'm thinking of Czech Republic and Russia, but they didn't necessarily have an all-conquering number one around the same time in the way that Italy has with Jannik Sinner, and obviously Jasmine Paolini breaking to the top four on the women's side as well. It never really quite come together. So for Italy to kind of put themselves at the top of the sport with the depth that they have, that you could think that this trend's going to continue. I think you have to add Italy to the list of one of the great historic tennis nations right now.
Yeah, and also just bringing it to the fans and, ground passers who are listening, having a country have such a dominant group of players helps with building the popularity of the sport. We were talking last week about our friend Mario, who says, people who would never watch a tennis match or anything were calling him to see if they could come watch the match, in his house, So it seems like countries can look to Italy to see how their success has kind of grown the sport in Italy. I feel like it seems like, anyway, from the pictures and stuff, Jannik Sinner is the ultimate star, athlete star in Italy. And that creates interest in the sport.
I mean, I will say that, so I actually ended up talking about this with Mario on another podcast.
Okay.
That came out, it would have come out on Thursday.
Okay, I'll link below for everyone so they could listen to.
The WTA Weekly Show. And he and I were talking about this, and something that he did mention was, yes, it has exploded in Italy, but the attention around the men's game far exceeds the women's game.
Interesting.
Right, so, yes, they have Paolini, but he said that she's only made it's kind of, her star's kind of more grown in the second half of the year. He said that she's only made the kind of the Italian sports front pages 3 times this year, which is the Wimbledon final, winning the Olympic gold with Sara Rani, and then winning the Billie Jean King Cup. So it is growing, but the awareness and the interest in the women's game is still developing there. And obviously that's the area that I'm a little bit more passionate about.
Right. And I mean, just also looking at casual tennis fans, tennis fans who are just getting into the game. I can't remember what, I think it was, who wrote to us. Oh my goodness. I think it was Carrie, was someone who wrote to us and said she'd been out of the game for a while and wasn't really watching, but then Jasmine Paolini came out of nowhere and, got her back into the game because of her attitude on court and her likability, I would say. So again, even if it doesn't sort of only affect the country of Italy and the fans there, a player like Jasmine Paolini is definitely someone who has attracted a lot of new people and sort of gotten them into the game, especially with her Wimbledon run, which was great. But either way, Team Italy doing great. Jannik is still on court currently, so we'll keep you posted there. Just follow us on our social media channels, Blue Sky, Threads. We're on Instagram as well, and we will keep you posted on that. Kind of sticking with the Davis Cup theme and things that happened there. I think you text me after Rafa Nadal's last match, which he lost, and he retired. What was that, Tuesday?
Monday. Yeah, Tuesday.
Yeah, it was Tuesday, right? And you were just checking in on me, being like, how are you doing? Because that is the one tennis player that I'm just a massive fan of. Like, Rafa, just till the end for me. And it was really interesting. Like, Rafa's retirement was sad, but I was very kind of content. I was like, yes, this is the time. It's over. And it mostly because it was, and I've talked to some other friends about this, it's like, he just isn't the same player that he was. Like, he's not able to give that sort of same, I mean, he still gives his entire being, but his entire being cannot handle the rigors of what a modern tennis match is like. So it was sad seeing him done, and there were definitely like emotional moments, him watching the video of all the sporting celebrities wishing him luck in retirement. But I was ready to see him go. After that last match, I was like, it is time, Rafa. It is time. What did you think of the ceremony and stuff?
I thought it was nice. I was surprised that he was up for speaking as long as he did. Because I think if it was me in that situation, I'd be massively struggling to get it out. This is why we don't do a retirement ceremony for Ground Pass.
No, we don't. No.
You're going to have to wheel me on here in my bath chair. Rafa Nadal and that ceremony, I think it was obviously, I think, ticked all the boxes, right? It ticked all the boxes. There was the tribute, there was the adoring fans, there was the goodbye speech. It wasn't really so much of an interview. There was some tributes paid to by people on court. I thought it was what you'd expect for a retirement ceremony for him.
Yeah.
Part of me felt like it was kind of going through the motions a little bit, like, yeah, we're doing this. I will say it was probably a little bit less tacky in some ways than Roger Federer's exit. I know we got those wonderful emotional moments with him and Nadal, but I still do not understand why they got Ellie Goulding involved.
Anyway, I have it was one of the most random musical guests I was like, Ellie Goulding?
So
okay.
The lack... this is. I don't have a problem with Ellie Goulding. She's a good singer.
She's lovely. She just wasn't the first thought that came to my mind.
No. And for those who are confused who didn't see the ceremony, we are now, Anastasia and I are talking about Roger Federer's retirement ceremony from 2 years ago.
That's what we do here. I don't know how it always comes back to Roger Federer.
I feel like, Ellie Goulding was not her finest moment. She didn't know why she was there. Very few other people knew why she was there. And I think that kind of colors the memory of it a little bit for me. But all the other I think also Federer, but then you have the flip side of Federer being there with all of his peers, and there was a lot of fuss being made, whereas Rafa didn't have that. I actually think the correct balance was what they did with Andy at Wimbledon. I thought that was probably the better retirement ceremony out of the three, just because I think there was an opportunity to kind of like, they interviewed him. He was a bit more personable. So my thoughts on the retirement ceremony was it did the job.
Yeah.
And there was some emotion in it, but I guess for me, it's like, as someone, like, if people who know me personally, I don't like circumstance and centre of attention. I like things to be sort of dreadful. But if I was Rafa, my preferred way of going out would be I play my last match and then I wave to the crowd and maybe I'll get some kind of commemorative thing for my last match and then I walk out.
And then you walk out and you're like, bye, peace, deuces.
Bye. Walk off.
Into the tunnel.
Rafa did get himself a commemorative thing, but the whole long drawn out thing. And like, maybe Rafa hated every moment of it, but he coped way better than I did.
Yeah.
Than I would.
So it was sweet. It was nice. And, with Spain out, they were taken out by you know what? Unlikely, some would say, but maybe the team that is a little bit underrated but shouldn't be, they were taken out by the Dutch team. And guess who's in the finals along with Italy? The Dutch team. They have been the best surprise of the Davis Cup, but almost not a surprise. Because if anyone watched on TV Carlos Alcaraz's match at the US Open, his first match where he played against Botic van der Zandschulp, who is part of the Dutch team.
Match?
Was it who was his first match?
Two.
Was it Jasper de Jong who was his first match? Possibly. I don't know. But yes,
it was definitely round two. He didn't go out first round.
Right. It was either no. JJ Wolf was his first round. He beat decisively JJ Wolf in the first round, and then the second round was Botic van der Zandschulp. And Botic was phenomenal. And just the history of Botic, like, he hasn't been obviously a top 20. Has he ever been in top 20? Not sure. You can look it up if you want to, but he's definitely a player to watch. He's really good when he is. The problem with Botic is when he's bad, he's really bad. So he just doesn't seem to have a middle ground per se. And, you know, he took out Nadal. Carlos Alcaraz was able to win his match against Talon Griekspoor. Yes, but Wesley Koolhof is part of the Dutch team. He plays doubles. He played doubles with, I think he played it with Griekspoor in this match. Or was it Botic?
It was Botic, I think. He played the match with Botic van der Zandschulp.
And they're just phenomenal. And here's the crazy thing as to why I actually love this for the Dutch team, even though I was Team Spain all the way. Well, it's Team USA and then Team Spain, but USA disappointed me. So anyway, but Wesley Koolhof is also retiring. This is also his last tournament. And it's been pretty sad with everyone just talking about Rafa's retiring. And I'm like, so is Wesley Koolhof, who is a phenomenal doubles player. And I think he showed that in that match against Spain. He's shown that throughout this tournament. And just seeing the Dutch team go through has been really great. Here's another funny thing. I will call myself a lapsed soccer fan. I used to watch soccer all the time. I never missed a World Cup. I used to watch, the Premier League all the time. I was into soccer for a period. I just haven't been in a while. And the Dutch fans, that sea of orange every time they have a massive sporting event has always just been something that is etched in my memory. And seeing that at the Davis Cup has been kind of cool. And just seeing this underdog of a team come through. I always love an underdog, and they have been the perfect underdogs this whole tournament.
The Netherlands, they are a team that, that when you look at it, they've actually got some solid players. And if you have very imbalanced teams that you're against, you've got a really good chance. Or teams of a similar stature, you've got a really good chance. And that's what they showed today. Talon and Botic, really, really good. Wesley is retiring close to the peak of his career, to be honest. His peak level, it's amazing that he's retiring, but he's obviously kind of done. And I was watching that doubles match between the Netherlands and Spain. And I was kind of not sure how to feel about it, because I wanted Rafa's career to keep going. I really wanted Rafa to get one more trophy.
Yeah.
Or at the very least, I wanted to sink Alcaraz in the final, because that would have been awesome. But we didn't get that. But on the other hand, I also didn't want Wesley Koolhof to lose his last match.
Yeah.
Because that would have because in some way, but also then I didn't want Rafa Nadal's kind of career to end kind of anticlimactically. Because it was he's done, and no one realised he was done. Really, I totally didn't think it was a possibility, because I underrated the Dutch team. But yeah, Koolhof played like a man possessed in that match. He was on it. Like he was the best player in the whole tie, pretty much.
Yeah. I think they reveled a little bit with being the underdogs. Like, I think they probably came into the tournament thinking, yep, nobody's going to pick us to win, but we are going to.
But it's not looking good so far because Griekspoor's now set down to Jannik Sinner, so Italy are one set away from the Davis Cup.
The inevitable winners. I don't know. I picked Team Italy at the beginning of this tournament just because Jannik Sinner is never going to lose a match ever again.
When I looked at the lineups, I realised that it was going to be either Italy, because like they have an insanely strong team, with having Sinner, Musetti and Berrettini in your singles, plus some very good doubles players. They would have been a nightmare to beat. The only team that really matched them for like strength and depth was the US. I don't know if you want to talk about that.
Well...
We're not talking about it, guys.
Thoughts. It was a rough moment. I don't understand the picks. I don't know why. And I'm the sort of person, too, who I tend to always maybe look on the bright side or give people the benefit of a doubt. And we don't know injuries and how people were feeling or anything like that. So I just, until things are confirmed, I kind of leave it alone. But I will say, didn't like the picks, was really disappointed, and of course they lost. Like, anyway, moving on. Moving on. If anyone watched that doubles, of course they lost the double.
For those who don't know, maybe you weren't able to follow the Davis Cup. The US team played Australia, who, by the way, were also a very strong team and were kind of my dark horses to maybe do something.
Yeah, very strong team.
Like, yeah, for me, it was between Italy, Spain, and the US for the teams. But Australia have a really decent team for, like, they have Dimonor, Kokkinakis, Jordan Thompson, Matt Ebden, fantastic doubles player. You know, they were fantastic. The US had brought Taylor Fritz, Tommy Paul, and Ben Shelton, plus Olympic silver medal winning team Rajiv Ramanostin Krajcek.
Dash team. Just listen to that. That was a pretty good team to bring.
Yeah. And then what happened was the US team played Ben Shelton against Thanasi Kokkinakis, which Ben narrowly lost. Fair. It was a coin flip match. Taylor Fritz then took care of business against Dimonor. Goes down to the doubles. The US captain does not pick his star doubles team. He goes with Tommy Paul and Ben Shelton, who I've never seen play doubles together. And they were handily beaten.
Funny enough, 2 years ago at the Miami Open, I watched Ben Shelton and Tommy Paul play doubles together. They weren't, great at the time. And I actually thought, I remember specifically watching this match and just thinking, oh my goodness, they're the good time team. They're just here. I thought they were probably using it as practice, as warm up, and I think they didn't get past the first round of the doubles at the Miami Open that year. But I mean, of all the combinations they could have picked, they could have put Tommy Paul and Taylor Fritz together, who have played doubles together at the Olympics. They could have put maybe one of the double specialists with either Tommy Paul or Taylor Fritz. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how that decision was made, and I really do hate to speculate.
The only explanation I've heard is that the captain said he wanted to surprise the other team with fire.
They were not surprised. Leighton Hewitt said they were not surprised.
Yeah, it didn't work, did it? So that the US went out to Australia at 2-1 in the quarterfinals. Look, I'm not going to gloat or anything like that because, I'd like to look at the bright side, and also GB weren't in the top 8, so at least the US still got further than GB. And we don't know how against Italy, I think that tie could have gone either way.
Yeah, because they probably could have won one of the singles for sure. And then it would have gone down to the doubles. And yeah. And just on a side note, actually, I don't know about you, but the best part of the Billie Jean King Cup and Davis Cup so far this year for me have been the deciding doubles. Every time a tie goes down to the deciding doubles, it's just epic. It's just
that deciding doubles between Poland and Italy, though kind of frustrating for if you're a Polish fan or fan of a certain player, was insanely topsy-turvy despite being 2 sets. It was so dramatic, and that ended up being the match, I think, that ended up deciding the outcome of the trophy. No offense to Slovakia, I didn't give them a chance of beating Poland either. So that case in point, that match.
Okay, yeah, so that was the Billie Jean King Cup. I know that, it isn't quite over yet with the Davis Cup, but I think it pretty much is. I think Team Italy is going to take it, and I will put out a correction to this podcast episode if somehow the Netherlands come back from the brink.
At time of recording, Sinners won the first against Tanpiq Sport 7-6, and it's 1 game more in the second.
So close. Could be. I could be putting out a correction to this podcast. I somehow don't think I will be, but anywho-ha. What do we have left to cover? So, this is Billie Jean King Cup, Davis Cup. These tournaments are basically it for the 2023 season. After this, the off-season begins. 2024.
We've gone back in time. So we're celebrating an Italian Davis Cup win, and Canada have won the Billie Jean King Cup. And I tell you what, I'm really looking forward to finding out if Jannik Sinner wins the 2024 Australian Open.
That's how time travel works. Doctor Who would tell you so. But anyway.
Happy Doctor Who Day yesterday if anyone was celebrating.
Was it really?
Yes. 3rd of November is the anniversary date of the very first episode going out.
That is so funny, because I was just talking to someone about my favorite Doctor Who, David Tennant, but now we're just on a long, long tangent, so we'll just bring it back to the tennis. But yes, it's the off-season. Welcome to the off-season. It is not long. Today would mark the beginning, quote unquote, but technically the 2025 season starts at the United Cup, which actually starts this year on the 29th of December. So tennis players will be heading off to Australia in a couple of weeks to start prepping and doing all their sort of preseason work, as they could call it. In fact, I think some people are probably starting preseason now because they didn't participate in the end of year finals or the Davis Cup or Billie Jean King Cup. But either way, we will just call this for ease the off season. And what are we going to be doing on Ground Pass? So we're going to try and pre-record some episodes for you so that we can also have an off season, a little bit of it at least. So those will be coming your way during the off season. We will also have the Challenger series documentary. I don't know what I'm calling it yet because I'm not sure how it will all come out and edit itself together, but you will have something special coming your way about the Challenger that I went to in Champaign. Yeah, that's pretty much what we'll be doing this off season. We'll still be on social media, I'm sure, popping in and out and doing stuff, but there just won't be any sort of tennis, actually. I totally almost forgot about Next Gen.
We literally talked about this before the podcast, so I would prod you about it. I mean, to be fair, Next Gen isn't starting for 3-4 weeks.
3 weeks, yeah.
Yeah, it's part of the off season. Anastasia knows I'm not as big a fan of the Next Gen as she is anyway. So it's a cool idea. I like the attention it gives to young talent. I don't take it seriously. I take the winner seriously, but by that point, I will probably want to break from tennis.
Yeah. It's so funny that thanks for bringing that up because I totally spaced, but I actually have a really cool idea of the episode we will probably pre-record to bring to you just before the Next Gen starts. I will leave it as a surprise for now, and I'll talk to Nick about it offline and see if he's down to do it because I think you'd be interested in doing this cool little fun episode for Next Gen. So I'll keep it up, I'll keep it a secret for now. But so that's what our off season will look like. Please stick with us, join us. I think we have some cool stuff coming along. your way. And before we wrap up this episode, I teased this in the beginning, and I think we just have to talk about it because if you're going to the Australian Open, and in fact, this is something that I want to sort of figure out before we do our Australian Open episode, but you know how people can go watch practices and things like that? I wonder what that setup is like at the Australian Open, because if you're going to the Australian Open and you have the ability to go watch a practice, guess whose practice I'm going to want to watch? I'm going to go watch, one said Novak Djokovic. I'm going to go watch his practice. Why? Why, Nick? Why would I watch his practice?
Because he's going to be practicing with Andy Murray. Not just as a practice partner, as his coach.
What is happening? Okay,
so here's the thing. Anastasia is mainly the mind behind our social media. Let's be real here, guys. And she pretty much put out my exact thoughts as if I'd posted them. So I had to kind of reword it in a way when I decided to post on social media about it. Although having said that, when the news broke, like, I think, what was it? It came out at 4:00 yesterday.
Yeah.
And I put my phone down and did not check it until 11 p.m. because that's when I was playing my D&D game.
Yeah.
All that. So basically, I think the first I heard about it was a text from my mum to say, what do you make of the Novak and Andy news? And I was like, what are you on about, mother? Has Andy decided to come out of retirement to play doubles with Djokovic? Because that's what I thought had happened. And then
also something that could happen.
I checked the news and I'm like, and Anastasia, the first thing you said was, on our social media post was, we thought Andy would be a coach. We didn't think it would be for this player. Like, we saw him backing a young up-and-coming talent, not his old rival who denied him an Australian Open 4 times.
Yeah.
In 4 finals, 2011, 13, 15, and 16. And, so for Andy to do that, I mean, I guess it's exciting, it's newsworthy. I think it's interesting that's the choice. I could see it working out for both of them. We'll have to see where it goes, but it's going to be one of the stories of the Australian Open.
No, totally. And I think I've talked about this before a long time, like one of our super, super early episodes, but as someone who was a huge fan of the Big Four, and they just took up so much of her time in tennis, and that's a lot of people's introduction to tennis has been following the Big Four. And it's been so interesting now with them all retiring or close to retirement that, you're kind of like, oh, who do I follow now in tennis? Like, how do I get into tennis or anything like that? Because we just thought, they'll retire and they'll go away. They are not going away. Like, I just feel, even with Roger Federer, who retired 2 years ago, but hasn't sort of played or done any sort of coaching or anything, he's still been around. He'll pop up in tournaments and, fans get to see him still. Who knows what Rafa is going to do? I think of the 4, he's the one who's least likely, I think, to do too much in tennis. But
he's got an academy. He's probably going to be running that, but behind the scenes.
Exactly. He's probably going to be doing that. I just don't know how much we'll see him on tour. I don't know. Maybe I'm ill-informed. I don't know. But I just don't know how much we'll actually see him on tour, like showing up at the French Open. He probably will. He probably will. But Andy, like you said, I knew Andy would coach. If anyone, and this is another chance for me to plug the documentary Resurfacing, one of the best sporting documentaries ever. And it just so happens to cover Andy Murray's sort of surgery and recovery from his hip injury. It just showed his nerdiness about sports and his determination. And just from watching that, you knew he wasn't going to be far away from the sport. I think he's just such a nerd about sports and performance and getting the best out of yourself. So I knew for sure he would be coaching, analyzing something in the sport of tennis, I just thought he would give it like a year. First of all, guys, Andy retired in August. It's November.
Here's the thing, though. Andy's also going on tour in the UK next year. Did you've heard about this?
No, what is he doing?
He's going on tour with an English broadcast journalist called Andrew Cotter. It's literally going to be him on stage just chatting with like the two Andys just chatting. And you can get tickets for it.
Wait a second. Andrew Cotter, he has the dogs, doesn't he? Does
Dogs.
he have two dogs? Like
I have no
Mabel,
idea. I don't know
Mabel
about his
and
personal life.
I think he has two dogs and he wrote a book about his dogs, if I am remembering the right person. Interesting. Wait, they're going on tour?
Yeah, let me
And
quickly...
he's coaching Novak?
Hang on, let me get it
Andy.
up. I'm going to get it.
Andy.
Because I want to tell the name of the tour. Because, like, yeah, it's only happening in the UK. And it's, like, only on a handful of dates. Yeah, Andy Murray, Overcome the Impossible. Yeah, it's going to be, like, 4 live interviews with Andy Murray on a stage. Edinburgh, Glasgow, London. It's going to be during the grass court season.
Interesting.
So
what if he's still coaching
anyway.
Novak during the grass court season?
I mean, to be fair, they only confirmed the coaching arrangement was for Australia.
Right. That is true. Let's
not get ahead of ourselves.
Okay. Either way, I think that's one of the biggest sort of tennis news events, I think, of this year, I think.
You know what the comparison just popped into my head? Do you remember when Serena Williams wound up her career? She ended up being coached by Renee Stubbs.
You're right.
That's open.
You're so right.
The same.
Yes. You are so right. I remember that because I actually went to one of the sort of during fan weeks. You could go and watch her practice, and Renee Stubbs was there. And I remember I didn't even know of the news I just thought, oh, what's Renee Stubbs doing on the court? And then I read later on that she was coaching her. But you are so right. And here's the thing. I've always thought, even this season, I thought Novak was definitely winding down his career. And after the US Open, if anyone's been following Novak on social media, he is in his influencer era. He is putting out video after video.
That social media announcement of the partnership was insane.
I mean, there was a video. I couldn't believe there was a video. And it's just, he definitely is in this sort of, I'm enjoying myself, which he has every single right to. He has won every award, tournament, whatever. He's done it. He should enjoy it. But now that you're putting it that way, I totally could see that happening, where it's sort of like next year is a unannounced farewell tour, or just, I mean, because it's almost like, why not? You know, if Andy Murray could coach me for a tournament, I mean, why not? Let's make a ton of videos about it. Let's call Netflix. Oh my goodness. Someone call Netflix.
Someone already has.
Someone better be calling Netflix, because I think they're done with Carlos's documentary after this season. So they need another project. This is perfect. This is absolutely gold. Wow. Okay. We have gone on maybe a bit too long, but I hope you're enjoying it. Either way.
This was a lighter podcast. I think we went on so many tangents with this. This is what happens when we start experiencing tennis withdrawal.
Yes. This is, if you can't tell, this is the beginning of the off season for us. We're talking about Doctor Who, puzzles, and Netflix documentaries. But that's what you do in the off season. You know, you don't have to think about what tickets you need to get for what tournament. We can do all of that at the beginning of next year, which is all but 4 months away. 4 weeks away. So don't worry. Tennis will be back in your lives. Keep up with us again on social media. We are on Blue Thread. We're on Blue Thread. I'm losing it.
Blue Threads. Like breaking Blue Threads, social media news.
Just announced Blue Threads.
Yeah,
which,
we are
by the way.
Threads. Sorry, what?
I was just going to say, by the way, the emoji for thread on your phone is actually blue thread. See what I did there?
You can find us on Threads, you can find us on Blue Sky, and you can find us on Instagram as well. Feel free to, follow us. Hope you enjoy our content, even if it is just mostly me breaking out of stars in one way, shape, or form when my microphone works. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back very, very soon. Try and keep you company through your own tennis withdrawals during the off season.